In this video, I am going to show you how to solve quadratics. When we're solving quadratics, it's very similar to when we're factoring polynomials. There's just an additional step at the end. So if you still struggle with factoring polynomials, I would suggest taking a look at a video that I made prior to this, making sure you have those steps down. If you think you know, but you're still a little iffy before I solve, I would suggest pausing the video, factoring it yourself, and then checking to see if you get the same answers. So with that, we're going to jump right in. This is our first problem. Notice that now, instead of not having anything on the right side of an equation, we have an actual equation where we have an equal sign. So what we're doing is we're solving for what x could be. Our first step is just to factor it. So we want to factor out our greatest common factor. All of these things are divisible by 2. So we can rewrite this, factoring out that 2, and we get x squared minus 3x minus 10. You can still get the right answer without factoring, it's just a little bit more work. From here, we do our a times c, which is going to be 1 times negative 10, which is negative 10. And then we want the factors of negative 10 that will give me negative 3. So negative 10 is divisible by 2 and 5 as long as one of them is negative. Because my b term is negative 3, it's going to be a negative 5. And then we can create our box and we can start factoring. So at the top we have x squared, at the bottom we have negative 10, and then we write in our factors. And then we take out what we can. So we factor out an x and a negative 5, we factor out an x and a 2. So when we factor this, we get inside of parentheses x plus 2 and x minus 5. Now remember, when I factored out my greatest common factor here, I need to write it back in. And then all of that is equal to 0, just like it was up above. And now to solve, the only additional step that we're doing here is we are going to set what is inside parentheses. We're going to set both of those equal to 0. So we have x plus 2 is equal to 0, and we have x minus 5 is equal to 0. So our solutions is just when we solve. So subtract 2 on both sides, and x is equal to negative 2. Add 5 to both sides, and x is equal to 5. So our solutions would be negative 2 and 5. And that's it. So I know I did the factoring pretty fast because hopefully you already know how to do that. And then the solving part is pretty simple because it's just like solving an equation. Let's take a look at a little bit more complicated of a problem. This problem looks a lot harder, but really it's the same as all of my other factoring problems. The difference is now that I have something not equal to 0 on the right-hand side. So all I have to do is solve. It's like a literal equation. So I'm going to get rid of my 4x first by adding it to both sides. And I get 10x squared minus 2x minus 6 is equal to 2. And then I want to get rid of the 2. So I'm going to subtract it on both sides. And I end up with 10x squared minus 2x minus 8 is equal to 0. From here, I can factor. Once again, I have a greatest common factor, and it's once again 2. So I can take out 2. I get 5x squared minus x minus 4 is equal to 0. So I just took out my greatest common factor. And now I can solve using the steps that we did in a previous video. So my first thing will be to do a times c, which is 5 times negative 4, which is negative 20. And I want the factors of negative 20 that will give me negative 1. If you don't remember how to do this using the factoring, remember you can always do x times y is equal to negative 20, and x plus y is equal to negative 1. And you just plug that into Desmos. So this is my a times c, this is my b term. So let's switch over to Desmos and see what we get. Our systems of equation, x times y is equal to negative 20. X plus y is equal to negative 1. It intersects at -5, 4. Same thing down here. They both give you the same two numbers. So those are our factors. So our factors of -20 are going to be -5 and 4. And then we can recreate our box. In our box, the top left is our 5x squared. The bottom right is our -4. Then we have -5x and 4x. And remember, all of those terms are coming from the inside of the parentheses. And then we just start factoring. So we factor out an x, a -1, because those are both negative, a 5x, and a 4. So in the end, when we factor, we get this. And we can solve for x. So we take the two things inside of our parentheses and set them equal to 0. 5x plus 4 is equal to 0, and x minus 1 is equal to 0. The first one is a little bit harder, but not really. We subtract 4 on both sides. We get 5x is equal to -4. Then divide both sides by 5, and x is equal to -4 over 5. On the right, we simply add 1 to both sides, and x is equal to 1. So our final answer would be x is equal to -4/5 and 1. And we're done. If you get to this point, great. If you want to check your work, what I would suggest is going over to Desmos and plugging in the original equation. So let's do that. When we do that, we just plug in exactly what we had seen. So we had 10x squared minus 6x minus 6 was equal to 2 minus 4x. Where it intersects is my solution. So my x value was -0.8, which is equal to -4/5. And then my other x value was 1, which is what we got. So that's how you know that you did it right. That is all you have to do for these problems. I know the factoring can be a lot, but once you factor out correctly, then the solving is just like solving a simple equation. If you need any help or you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below.